I would say, introduction to what we are trying to do, and what is the purpose, objective, and thought process behind this event called QLarified 2012. This is the second year of the event. Last year when we did this event, there were a lot of people from different organizations who participated into the open house forum. I mean, it was not a organizational event, it was more of a individuals event, and lot of people gave an input that why don't you do it in our organization, and so that because it's very difficult for us to travel for getting shortlisted. I mean, I will not like to come all the way in the middle of the city to speak for 3 minutes in the elocution or 5 minutes and then get filtered out and don't go to the next level. So for 5 minutes, do I come all the way to center of the city? And that input I realized was very, very important input, and the thought process was to have more people involved in the industry best practices. There are a lot of practices, methodologies, and frameworks which are existing for various aspects of IT management, IT governance, for application design and development, infrastructure support, and also at a strategic and management level. And all of these practices have some common traits and common thought processes running across, and there are very strong interrelationship between all of these practices. And these practices is what we thought needs more clarity, and also the application of these practices requires more in-depth analysis about how it can be adopted and implemented in the organization. Generally, this is a top-down approach in most of the organization, whereas the people who are actually practicing, they know what are the difficulties and challenges being faced by them, and both the perspectives have to come together to really make it happen in the organization. It is more of a cultural aspect rather than a policy-driven aspect is what we realized over the period of time. And how do we make it a cultural initiative rather than a policy initiative is what triggered this event, because we saw a lot of failures of implementing these approaches because of the cultural resistance of the organization. And organizational change management is a major challenge. And we thought that when people talk about it, they themselves will get a clarity on usage and application and relevance of these practices. And that is how this event got initiated. And that is what we tagged this whole initiative as Sure Thoughts, and from confusion to clarity on various practices, methods, and various industry relevant standards. So this is what the basic background is. There are a lot of practices, as I mentioned. I mean, something focused on design, something focused on development, something focused on transition, something focused on managing, supporting, and improvements and cultural change and all that kind of stuff. So start from enterprise architecture to actually project management, product management, delivery, etc. The purpose was to bring a clarity on various industry best practices which exist by means of industry participation and collaborative efforts from everyone. Because it is not about one person's thought which matters. It is about the collaborative thought of the industry and professional in the industry which matters as far as these practices are concerned. And to get the relevant clarity and eventually enhance the maturity of the IT industry in general. I mean, definitely we are not saying that this will result into increase in maturity over one event, but when people are engaged and involved over the period of time, and there is a platform to discuss and share and debate on nitty-gritties and pros and cons of a particular method or a practice, then eventually this is what is likely to happen. That is what we are focusing on. And to provide a common platform to share their knowledge. This is what the objectives are: to draw some conclusions on usage of various practices, to build a professional network of powerful professionals, and to promote unbiased notions about various industry practices. Because if I am following one method or a practice in my experience for past 8 years, and suddenly someone comes and says, hey, do you know what? You should follow Scrum. And I say, what is this new thing called Scrum or Agile? And I don't know how is it going to impact my overall project management and delivery cycle. And I am still biased, and I may not adopt. I may not be ready to change. I may not be willing to change, because 8 years I have been following a traditional project management practice. Now, where do I get the answers, and how do I debate and put forth my viewpoint? Maybe there is an impact. There have been places where the agile development methodologies shortens the life cycle of projects, and the deliverables, and then it impacts the overall production services at times. At times the support and maintenance team feels the heat of this agile development methodologies, but since these methodologies are practiced, or this various infrastructure practices and design and development practices and management practices are being performed by different people, the impact and relationships and interdependencies are discussed, but not as openly as they ideally should be. And we thought that this is what will bring in that unbiased view about these practices. And the relevance is, as I already mentioned, we are focusing on a particular practice which brings in global viewpoint, but misses the organizational point of view about the culture and the acceptance and the bias towards a particular thought process, and which is there in most of the organizations. I would say every organization has some bias, and every person has some bias, and how do you have that unbiased view? Very, very challenging, and bringing in common sense approach rather than going by what is just given in the books. I have seen a lot of people just following the books and not really approaching the relevance. Now, there are a lot of practical world challenges and a lot of issues which organization may face as a adoption or implementation of these practices. Look at the challenges which typical CIO faces. Okay, so he has to adapt for tomorrow and act for today and keep the cost low. And business is asking ROI on every project that is being undertaken by IT, and IT initiatives balancing between future technologies and current technologies is the challenge. So there are challenges in terms of structure, technology, people, processes, etc. And that is what balancing act is, and that is what he has to focus on. Failure of IT project is another major challenge. Yes, only 30% of IT projects are actually, that is the Gartner study, not my statistics. Yeah, so around how do we increase the success ratio and return on investment on the IT? That is another challenge for the business. Skills gap, which is another challenge. A lot of professionals are there, a lot of people are there, but are they really equipped to deliver the best out of the IT that we are talking of? So this is another challenge. It still goes wrong because organizations invest in a lot of management practices, IT services, IT service management, project management, a lot of methodologies, governance methodologies, project management methodologies, agile methodologies. So, but still there are problems. The solution would be focus on people, not on frameworks, and developing the people capability and ability to think and apply, and don't just follow a particular standard or a framework as specified, but relevance and applicability and how we can adopt and adapt and implement. That should be the thought process, and that is what. So investing in people and making basically with the help of people and their thought process, their attitude, behavior and skills, and then getting those skills which will be delivering on the floor. Now, why this event clarified, right? I mean, why and why basically EXIN, who is the international body on various practices, and they into people certification on various practices. They realized that we had started this initiative, and we spoke to EXIN, and EXIN said, yes, this is logical. We are also striving to achieve the similar objective and agenda, and facilitate and enhance the knowledge management and ecosystem of industry professionals, and have the various aspects where people can talk about this and application and relevance, and not just go by books, but go by the practical relevance and the logic and the applicability to the given organization. That is what the thought process we are trying to work, and that's why this clarified has been taken up. So that is what I have to say about why and what and how this event has come up and what we are going to do. According to me, next year, this year, I mean, this is the first round, and we are going through the shortlisting process, and we have a lot of companies who are participating, and we will be shortlisting, going to the quarter-final round within each city, 7 major cities, and people will then go for semi-final at Bangalore and Pune, and eventually it will culminate into final in Pune, typically in 1st or 2nd December, subject to the availability of one of the venues, which we spoke to a lot of providers, various hotels. I mean, we need a big size arrangement for that. So 1st, 2nd December, or maybe in a week after that. So that is what it will culminate into, and the best of the thought process will be churned out, and the debating and cross-questioning on why should I follow a particular method or a practice? Why should I follow a particular path in my management practices? So this is what the whole idea is behind this event. And I hope, I would say this is a good beginning, and I hope that this will result into achieving the objectives and the purpose for which we have started this initiative. Thank you very much. Thanks.